Gobind Singh, and then later on went into Darbar Sahib and so had darshan for the first time in her life of Sahib Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. This had such an amazing effect on her as a person who knew nothing about Sikhi, but she said in her mind that basically, I've got my father back now. My worldly father had recently passed away, but now I have a new father, and my new father is Sahib Sri Guru Gobind Singh, and I can see the manifestation of that in Sahib Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So this is the thing, many people, they have this support structure because they realize it. We can often live in our life where we basically just think, nay, just my worldly parents are my only parents and I don't need anybody else. But the reality is that often people can let you down, or not always people can give you the level of wisdom that we need in life to get us through life. So this is why Shabd Guru and having Guru Sahib as our parents is really, really important. So if we look at parenting, especially fathers, as it's Father's Day, there's so many examples in our Sikh history. We can look at the examples of Sahib Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji and his sons, and how Guru Angad Dev Ji became the Guru. We can look at the relationship of Bibi Pani Ji and her father. We can look at the relationship of Sahib Sri Guru Arjan Dev Ji and the letters that he wrote, the Shabd Hazare that he wrote to Sahib Sri Guru Ram Das Ji. We can look at Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji and his conversations with Guru Gobind Singh Ji that led to Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji going for his Shahidi. We can look at the relationship of Sahib Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji and the Chote Sahibzade and the Badde Sahibzade. There's so many amazing examples just from our Guru Sahibs, and then separate from that, from Gursikhs in our history. But there's so many amazing Gathakars in the Panth who can explain that far better than me. So what I thought I'd do today, for many of us, is talk about a story that you rarely ever hear of. These are Gop stories in our Panth. And some of you will hear this story, the Sakhi, for the first time. And I thought it'd be quite amazing to share this Sakhi. It's something that I heard almost 20 years ago, and it's called Darshan. It's the story of a person who had got so depressed in his life that he wanted to commit suicide. Now, why am I sharing this story with you? Because unfortunately, as life goes on, some people give up. They give up on life. They can give up on their marriages. They can give up on their jobs. Unfortunately, some people give up on their kids and give up on life. And then they start getting depressed and start thinking about committing suicide. So rather than doing that, how do we bring Guru into our lives? How can we build a support structure in our lives that we never get to that point? So I'm going to share this story with you. It's a beautiful story. I'm going to try and narrate it the best I can, and then I'm going to carry on discussing this. So this is called Darshan, and it's a story of a young boy in his 20s and how he was basically a leper and how he basically discovered Guru Sahib. So it'd been almost 20 years ago that I'd been diagnosed with an incurable form of leprosy. This had been the first such case in memorable history of my village, of my bend, and the people of the village didn't know what to do with me. I had been quite a cheerful and promising young boy before the village doctor had noticed this perpetual open wounds in my back. After he announced my disease to my village, my life changed drastically. The elders banished me, despite my family, particularly my mother, heartbreaking pleas. My brothers and uncles built a hut for me 3 miles away from the village and promised me daily visits. At first, all my relatives and friends came each and every day and brought me gifts and tried their best to lift me from the dark and heavy depression that was suffocating me. But due to my own negative and cynical views, because love is rarely true amongst worldly people, the number of people visiting me had reduced to 1, which was my mother. She would bring me food 2 times a day. She would come and clean my hut, bathe and feed me. At first, I eagerly awaited her visits. I asked her about my friends, but gradually it only pained me to listen to her. Soon after, I started bolting the door and would ask her to leave the food outside and go away. I also asked her to come only once a day, since I had realized it was hard for her. With much reluctance, she agreed, but she could not understand my depression, my isolation from her. This continued for 10 years. My condition was only getting worse. Although I was in my 20s, I felt like an old man. Laying all day in bed, being angry, depressed, had certainly taken its toll. It was a hard time even going to the nearby river and just getting my supply of water. My bones would groan and creak at every effort. My mind had turned to a dull and stagnant vessel, which could not hold any thoughts apart from my immediate bodily needs. Then one day things changed. My mother had been taken seriously ill with tuberculosis. Even in her illness, she prepared food for me, but she didn't have the strength to deliver it to me. She asked my nephew to accomplish this task and bring me the food. Consider it fate, but for reasons known only to my nephew, the food never came to me. The first day without food, I cried like a baby and shouted out to my mother. I tried to eat berries from a low-hanging bush, but due to my ignorance, I had eaten the poisonous ones. This only made my situation worse. After 3 painful, lonely, sleepless days, I assumed my mother was dead, and I would never again see another human being. So I decided to end my life. It was the middle of the night, and death seemed quite inviting and a pleasant escape. I slowly and painfully got up from my bed and made my way towards the river. I envisioned myself jumping in and drowning. I had made it halfway to the riverbed when I tripped on a bush and fell heavily on my face. Due to my general poor health and lack of food, I could not even lift myself up again. Only with a tremendous amount of effort, I turned and laid on my back. Miraculously, I fell asleep. But it was a wonderful sleep. I dreamt of a man with a beard and a blue the star wrapped on the head. He took my hand and led me to 2 big doors. Although I could not see his face, he appeared radiant. He had grace and elegance. With his hands he pushed open the doors. A ball of white light immediately engulfed me. With a jerk, he lifted me a few feet from my body. This jerking moment woke me. I was breathing slowly and deeply, but I felt light and joyful. To my joy, I realized I was hovering outside my body. I'd heard about this from other buggards in the village, but I'd never experienced anything like this, that I, my soul, was outside my body. That day, in an instant, my life changed. I could not express the relief I felt at the thought that this rotten, deformed body had leprosy was no longer me. Since then, my life had revolved around getting that sensation back. I tried all the methods that I had heard about gaining that light feeling again, but even though I had become still inside and very calm, and I could listen to myself and nature more easily, that wonderful feeling never graced me. Most of my days were spent drowned in thought and depression. But Darshan Day was different. I couldn't go back and sleep no matter how hard I tried. Finally at dawn I got out of bed, looked out at the window. The sun had just risen, Amrit Villa, and making everything golden. The birds, the wind were joyful, singing songs of love. I stood there for a long time, bathing in its freshness. For about 12 years I used to go walking, but I was an avid walker as a young boy. But now, when people looked at me, looked at the state of my body with leprosy, their faces, it scared them, so I just kept in this hut. But that day, these things didn't matter. I just wanted to feel outside. I wanted to feel that sun. I felt a trace of life in me. I spent the whole day seeped in nature, waiting for something to happen. At the end of the day, I was more surprised than disappointed that nothing had happened. I lay on my bed and dozed off. In that dream, that same man with a blue the star appeared again. This time he held me by the hand and he took me to the river. He signalled me to go into the water. I went in. I looked at my reflection in the water and with a shock realised I had been cured. I looked at the man, but he had entered the hut, so I quickly ran and knocked on the door of my hut. No answer. I knocked again. With a start, I woke up and I realised I was there on the bed and someone was knocking at my door. I physically got up. I opened the door and saw a sight that filled me with wonder and awe. There stood a middle-aged man at my door. He had a small bundle of what appeared to be books and clothes on one shoulder and a musical instrument on the other shoulder. A few steps behind him stood the man in my visions. He was wearing a yellow robe, wooden slippers and a blue dastar. Although his robe was faded and old, he looked like the King of Kings. His beard mostly white, his face was filled, overflowing with youthfulness. Although his eyes were half closed and hidden in the dark, 1,000 suns could not match their brilliance. 1,000 moons could not match their serenity. 1,000 kings could not match their splendour. Instinctively, I sank to my knees and bowed. Without a word, they both entered my hut and sat on my bed. I was quite dumbfounded and tongue-tied. I just kept staring at them. At times, I would quickly glance at his feet, but it proved so intense an experience, I would quickly have to look back down again. It was too strong, the light was too strong. I wanted to say words of welcome. I wanted to thank him for being there. I wanted to ask him for forgiveness for my sinful being, but my throat would not. I could not form the words. With his signal, the man with the instrument opened it up and started playing. Ah, what a wonderful music captivated me. Then he sang. The song entered me, flooded and imprisoned me. I drank his song and lost my thirst. His song opened a dam of tears in me, and I wept. With one note of his song, he gave me enough to fill my whole life. With one note of that shabd, I was drenched in bliss. When one note of that shabd, my thoughts all finished. When one note of that song, my soul separated from this pained and diseased body. That shabd was about light. That shabd was about the darkness that had been in me. That shabd was about the world within me. That shabd was about sorrow and deathless truth. He sang about the sorrows of death and untruth. That shabd showed me how to become the truth. That shabd showed me how to merge with one. It was about the wonderful Naam. He sang about blissful Naam. He sang about Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. After the songs, there were songs of silence. I was in Anand, I was in freedom. My beard was literally drenched in tears of repressed emotions. Without a word, his companion filled a bowl he was carrying with water, and he started reciting verses. Whereas these shabds were wrapped in love and longing, these verses, these shabds, were wrapped in wisdom and Akal Purukh's greatness. I listened. I felt wise and clean. For the first time in my life, I felt pure. At a time, everything was pure. My clothes, my hut, my forest around me. Blessed was my bed, which was serving these two, Guru Sahib and Bhai Mardana. How fortunate was his companion Bhai Mardana. Throughout the songs, the shabds, the recitation of the companion gazed upon his face like an intent child looking at his mother. I found myself gazing upon Bhai Mardana's face, whereas Guru Sahib's face was like the sun, too bright for me. His companion's face resembled the moon. It was quite a moment. I staring at the moon staring at the sun focused on the one, Akal Purukh. Bhai Mardana finished the shabd and took the bowl of water to the feet of Guru Sahib, who dipped his toe in that water. The companion motioned me to drink the water. To my surprise, it was sweet. I gulped it. Never had I tasted such a contentment. I felt intoxicated. I felt I belonged to him, and he to me. I felt his love, his grace. I felt him inside of me. He leaned towards me, and he whispered in my ear, Waheguru, Waheguru. 1,000 bright suns dawned in me. 1,000 blissful winds blew in me. 1,000 colourful flowers bloomed in me. 1,000 joyful mountains sprang in me. 1,000 celestial chords played in me. 1,000 angels sang in me. All the suns, the winds, the flowers, the fountains, the chords, the angels sang, Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. Sunlight on my face brought me back into this world. They had departed. A pain shot through my body at seeing the empty bed. For a moment I wanted to run and find them, but the quietness of the trees told me they'd gone far. Slowly I got up from the spot in which I spent the whole joyful night. What a night, I thought. The trees were certainly justified in singing about spring, for he was spring. For a moment I thought this was all a dream, and perhaps I'm still in this dream. But suddenly I realized this was all real. On that bed lay a small gotka. To my excitement, I picked it up. It was the shabds that Bhai Mardana had recited. Although I didn't know the language it was written in, I could still read it because it was a language similar to the one I knew. The verses written in them were the same ones that Bhai Mardana had recited, and they were deeply embedded in me. I quickly read the first page, and then I turned the young. My heart missed a beat. It wasn't the Godka, but it was the sight of my hand. My sores were dry. I carefully put the Godka back on the bed. With a trembling my hand and my heart examined, I looked at my body. All my sores, my leprosy were dry, or getting dry. Waheguru had cured me. He, the angel of one, had cured me. He had come into my unclean hut and purified me. Tears welled in me when I thought of his mercy. Me, this sinner, an unclean, filthy, untrue animal, had been touched by his grace. I bowed to the Godka. I kissed it. I lovingly pressed it to my heart. This is the story of Darshan. So, this was the story of a person who had leprosy and had totally given up on life. What do we learn from this story? Is no matter how tough we think life is, whether it's through our exams, whether it's through our jobs, whether it's through our business, whether it's whatever problem we have in our lives, through our marriages, our children being unwell, Guru Sahib is always there. Guru Sahib is not someone who was here hundreds of years ago. Guru Sahib is with us, unsung, all the time. If we do ardas, if we want that darshan, and we have biyas for that darshan, Guru Sahib will come to us. He will come in our samadhiyan. He will come in our kirtan. He will come in our dreams. He will come in our thoughts. We can physically see Guru Sahib. We can physically see him through the shabd. So my benti to all the Sangat on Father's Day and Mother's Day, whenever it comes, is that basically never give up on life. Always be strong inside. We are the spirit-born nation. We are the nation that has Waheguru on our lips and in our hearts. There's nothing on this earth which is too high for us not to overcome. We can overcome anything on this earth. There's no problem we can't solve because we have the hand of Guru Nanak Dev Ji on our heads. If we honestly do our Nitnem, if we honestly do our Simran with sincerity, everything we can accomplish in life. No problem is too big. Never give up on life. From a young age, teach your children they are the spirit-born nation, so that they don't come down and start thinking about mental health issues and start falling into depression. Show them how you come out of that spiral through the Shabd, through Waheguru, through Seva, through Simran, through sacrifice. These are the things that are essential about our Sikhi. We have that mental strength that no matter how hard the Mughals tried and picked the most gruesome kind of tortures, ways of killing Sikhs, every Sikh that was shaheed by Daru Singh, by Mani Singh, all the Bibiyan, जिन्हां दे बच्चे दे बंद कटवाए सी, everything, their children were cut up. Everything that happened in our history, we came back stronger. So as we're living our lives, our daily lives now, where we have comfortable existences, there's nothing on this earth that we can't achieve. There's nothing on this earth that we need to be afraid of. But what we need to be is mentally strong. That mental strength comes from Gurbani, comes from Abhyas, and comes from our Rath. So let's learn as much about Sikhi, and let's share these kind of Sakhiyan. So this was quite a unique Sakhi that you rarely hear, but it's an important Sakhi because all of us can relate with this. There's always times when people think, I don't know what to do. How am I going to get through this? Oh, my life, this is going to bring an end to everything I wanted in my life. And the reality is tomorrow is always another day, and it's always another beautiful day if we remember Waheguru and we do our Nitnem and we basically do our Simran. Then tomorrow is always another beautiful day, and you will have thousands of beautiful more days in your life. So my benti is always do your Nitnem, enjoy Sikhi, love Sikhi, and basically spend as much time in Sangat as possible.